Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like who? Like you, create leverage in the music business. And if you've been paying attention, if you've been awake at class, the C.L.I.M.B is an acronym. C.L.I.M.B stands for creating leverage in the music business, because we should be Nobel laureates. We are so smart. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And he helps songwriters like you turn pro by teaching the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting. And you can find Brent at songwritingpro.com. Again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. It's an innovative artist development company. They help you find your sound, and they help you find your audience. Not only do they develop and improve your artistry, they also grow and monetize your fan base, creating what? Cash flow.
Yeah, baby.
Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, there's only one Johnny Dwinell.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's catching on to that, by the way. I get a lot of emails, and they're like, hey, no S in production.
There you go.
They actually
Make
put
it
that,
stick.
They put that in the email, which is an honor. You know, I mean, they're paying attention.
Nice.
How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing all right. And I guess by the time this drops, Christmas will have just happened. And so I'm just going to go ahead and say I enjoy everything I got, which is mainly just hugs from my kids, probably. That's good,
right, man. That's good.
That's good stuff.
I'm fixing to head up for Christmas here to see my little nieces and nephews, and I actually get a double shot of them. My middle sister Janet, who just turned 40, graduated from U of L last week. So my whole family converged on Louisville, and which is where she lives, and I mean, 2 nieces, 2 nephews, my cousin and her little one, who's 4, and my parents were there. It was just, you know, my brother-in-law's. It was fantastic. So it was kind of like a pre-Christmas, and now we're heading up to the frigid tundra of Wisconsin for Christmas.
Fun.
Yeah,
like escaping the frigid tundra of Nashville. That's good,
bro. Like I'm telling you what, like I'm the traveling master. I was down in Dallas visiting Neil for a little while, for a few days. I came back up, had a day to do some laundry, head up to Louisville for 4.5 days, came back, had a couple days. Now I'm heading back up north, and then I come back down, and then I fly out to Dallas again for New Year's. So I'm I'm all over the place.
I hope you got a map, because I just got lost.
Yeah, I'm lost. I'm like, I feel like I'm on tour again, like where the roadie's putting what town we're in on the monitor, so I don't screw it up like an idiot. You know,
we're saving it all up. I went to Missouri for Thanksgiving for my in-laws, and then after that, we're trying not to travel again until we go to China, and that will be all the traveling I need for a while.
That's a long trip, brother. I wish that for you. I hope that comes sooner than later, my man.
Me too. I want to get that over with for several reasons.
Well, hey, let's get down to it here. I want to talk about why consumers don't care, because just today I'm on TweetDeck, you know, responding to a couple tweets here and there, and 3 different tweets, man. Hey, check out my new song. You know, did this and did that, and it's just.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you're like, well, why not? I think I will spend 3 or 5 minutes.
I've got all the time in the world.
Your song. You just asked me to, total stranger. Why not?
Completely.
That's how I do it, and I'm sure that's how y'all do it too.
Exactly, man. You know,
raise your hand if you respond to those and go, oh, I will listen.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, listen, I know my fair share of artists who just really believe that everybody should listen to everything that they do because they're amazing. Just ask them, they'll tell you.
But and will are 2 different things.
Exactly. But then I think most artists really, you know, want to be better at serving it up, but they just don't have the tools to do it. And I think, you know, at Daredevil, when we bring artists on, the first thing I tackle is I just don't want to tell you what we're doing, because if you don't get why we're doing it, you're not going to participate. And if you're not participating and you don't conceptually buy into what we're doing, I can't take your money. I mean, I can't work. I would feel terrible, I mean, because it just is, you're not going to get results, which is, by the way, why we stopped working with, for the time being with the legacy market, because, I mean, here you have a legacy artist, a bunch of really, really talented, really, really smart artists. But how do you look, a veteran in the eye, and because they were smart, and because they were adaptable, right?
And
hardworking, they learned how to become a star. They learned how to become an artist, and everything that they learned and mastered that made them what they are today. And somebody like me walks up and says, "Hey, Leah, that's all wrong now." It doesn't work, I mean, and if it doesn't work for the artist, it doesn't work for the team around the artist. If it does work for the team around the artist, then the artist isn't on board. So it was just like banging my head against a wall. Like I just wasn't getting anywhere with it. And I was going to have better luck with, as you bringing them bank statements, like, hey, this little 13-year-old girl outsold you. How does that make you feel? I got it. Well, what if we tried that with you? Oh, okay. Now we're talking. Everybody's on board. Okay, that's just the way that we got to do it. So money talks and BS walks.
Prove it with people that aren't famous artists yet. Prove it with them and go. Just think what I can do with you.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we came from. So I just wanted to share like the why of what's going on. Now, a lot of this is, it's certainly stuff we've touched on before in previous episodes, but man, I wouldn't keep bringing it up if people keep missing the boat on it. Like it's the same thing. So we can all agree that the market has changed in the music industry. It's very clear. Record sales are down 90%. The cost that we used to get, the price we used to get for a record is down 62% from just 20 years ago. So it's not a question of any kind of technology. Technology is the scapegoat. Technology is there because it wasn't there before. So people say this is why people don't want to buy records. But, I've talked about the water analogy before. Homeless people walk in, gather money, and if they're not buying booze, they're going in to get water, right? And to a gas station, the poorest people on this planet, and they'll spend 3 times the price of a gallon of gas to buy something that they can get for free if they take 20 extra steps into the restroom. And get it out of the faucet. Purified Dasani is tap water. This is not from some secret spring right underneath the Coke building. It's from city water in Atlanta. And that's all it is. That's all there is to it. And they mark it up and they sell it. And so what's happened here, and this is a very typical paradigm, what they call a paradigm shift in an industry. I saw this happen in the electronic
paradigm, no listener left behind, which is a phrase I stole from Seth Mosley at the Full Circle Music podcast, but no listener left behind. So a paradigm is how somebody sees the world. It's their framework of how they see the world. It's a lens through which they see the world. So when you paradigm shift, you shift the way you see the world. The world may have already shifted, but you may still be looking at through the old model. So,
right. And, listen, that's really indicative of what happened with the marketplace. The world shifted. And the way that the world looks at music and the way that the world receives music shifted. And so because of that, that is the paradigm. I mean, that's so poignant on several different levels of what we're about to cover. But here's the thing. When you have big, huge corporations, and this is just indicative of any massive corporate organization, they're not quick to move. So you have a market that changed. The technology has changed. The way that we're responding to messaging has changed, but the industry hasn't yet. Because unlike the rest of the business world, this paradigm shift of permission marketing that we've talked about in prior episodes is new. It's new. Radio was working just fine 6 years ago. And breaking artists, and you could argue now we're still breaking new artists on country radio, even though it's really not happening. I'm generalizing, but it's not happening on pop or rock that much anymore. Like if you have a debut single on rock radio or pop radio in the last 5 years, I'm generalizing when I tell you that mostly you didn't break because of a radio campaign. You broke on The Voice or American Idol or on YouTube or on, some other place that made you so popular that they had to put you on the radio. Whereas you could be the unknown. You could be Guns N' Roses with Welcome to the Jungle, and we're going to go work this market to market and do radio tour and just grind, and we're going to turn you into somebody. Doesn't happen that way in radio anymore,
Right.
So if the market changes and the industry doesn't, and sales are sunk, and we're only down to 3 record labels, major labels, right? There's a lot of other labels that are independent, that are doing some serious damage out there. I mean, in a good way. Like they're really doing amazingly well. But I mean, we used to have like 7, 8, 9 major labels, and we're down to 3.
Yeah.
There it is. So what happened was adaptability, right? So Leon C. Meganson, I'm going to blow your mind here with my big brain.
You just blew it with that name. Okay, go ahead.
Was paraphrasing a concept out of Charles Darwin's book of Origin of Species. Charles Darwin's always associated with this quote, but it wasn't him. It was Leon C. Meganson. But he said, "It's not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It's not the strongest that survives, but the species that survives is the one that is able to best adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself."
So, in other words, let me paraphrase that again. So, it may not be the best singer that survives. It may not be the best performer that survives. It's going to be the artists that are the most adaptable to the new medium that survive.
Boom, genius. Yes.
Oh, think how good we could be if we practiced these.
This is here's what's so exciting. Like if you have doubts about your talent, right? Like if you have doubts about your amount of money that you have, if you have doubts about how intelligent you are, if you have doubts about your songwriting ability, if you feel like any one of these things might be a weakness, if you're not the best musician in the world, guess what? All that goes out the window. And you can market yourself better than anybody else. And that's something you can learn. And that's something you can learn. So let that sink in for a second. We have a changing environment, So focusing on marketing because and eliminate I just hate feeling like a salesperson, everything like that. Well, if you've been made in your past to feel like you're being sold, that's not marketing. That's terrible.
Right.
That's salesperson crap. When you really need something to happen, and somebody's there to either show you how to do it or has the item that you need or whatever, and you're happy to pay money to get the service or the good that you want, that's not being a salesman. That's called commerce. And when you can clearly spell out, here's what we're going to do, and here's what I'm about, and communicate with that person so that the inside of their brain is what makes the decision. Our brains, by the way, are like we have adapted over time as human beings, right? As a species, the inner core of our brain does not understand language. It does not understand reason, which is what every salesperson that sucks tries to use to convince you to get a feeling to buy somebody. Think about that, right? I mean, so when people say, it doesn't feel right, I don't feel good about this purchase, I mean, think about what they're saying, right? It's that inner core, it's the cerebral cortex on the outside of our brain that has adapted to reason and has adapted to language. But if we don't somehow connect with that inner core of our brain, which has nothing to do with language, there's no connection being made, right? When girls, cry at a Chevrolet commercial, or there's a something funny that makes you laugh and makes us, or gets you hostile if it's a political thing that you saw. Like, these are feelings that happen, and that all comes from that inner core, So when you don't think about being a salesperson as being some sort of smarmy, low-level scumbag, because sucky salespeople can be that way, but that doesn't have to be you, right? Like,
right.
I was never that guy. Like, people just come out shaking their heads like, I don't know why I gave you a bunch of money, but I'm really happy. I'm like, awesome, man. I mean, enjoy the product, and they do, and they feel good, and they want to come back. That's called a relationship. That's called providing a good, providing a service, and in return, you get some kind of altruism, some kind of compensation. So
yeah, and the beautiful thing about capitalism, which is what we're talking about here, is both parties, after the transaction happens, both parties are happier than they were before it happened. Right. Everybody's better off.
Yeah.
In honest capitalism, where
things are out in the open. Like, this is really what you're getting. Okay, this is really what I'm getting. Make a free will choice. That's why the beautiful thing, like when you check out a line at Walmart or Chick-fil-A or wherever, you just say thank you, and the other person says thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you.
Exactly. We both say thank you. We're both thankful.
Exactly. Wow. And so the thing that everybody's working against here is that it's been so good and so long, and it's been working the same way for so long in all kinds of mass marketing that, the stories that you've heard from your grandparents, from your parents, all that, these are all legitimate ways that they were able to connect with whatever. Mm-hmm. Television show, an artist, Tide detergent. I mean, whatever it is, like they've connected through mass media, but mass media, as we have come to know it, is essentially dead. It's dead. Mm-hmm. Like a dead religion. There's been thousands of religions before Christianity that have come and gone and died, and think about the paradigm shift in that. Like, this is something wow, you know what I mean? Like, it's that this is the religion of how we receive music, and that feeds our soul too, mm-hmm. And it's gone the way it normally used to do it, and you need to accept that, and you need to adapt to the way it's working now to be successful. And so, in order to have mass marketing, you had to have masses, and there was a lot more masses even just 10 years ago on the radio, but now there isn't, because we can switch off on the phone and go hear what we want to hear, right? And what we want to hear is what we're familiar with, and we've been over that before. But, a lot of people, for the slightly older crowd, there's a huge hit show in the mid-'90s called Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
And
did you say for the older crowd?
Yeah, that's us, man. I hate to tell you.
Man.
But
I'm just going to need a moment. Okay, go ahead.
But, think about the ad frenzy and the marketing frenzy for the Super Bowl, because they know there's so many people watching. They get millions and millions and millions of dollars for a 30-second spot because they have this incredible reach, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that was the way they touted the final episode of Seinfeld, which was still hugely popular, massive in the ratings, but he stopped it at top. Like, he wasn't declining. And so that was this big deal. And people overpaid, and it was exorbitant and blah, 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 blah. But most people don't know, like, the numbers for that didn't even come close to, like, that third-rated show in whatever the sitcom was in 1979 that nobody remembers.
Oh, wow.
They had bigger numbers. So mass media breaks down. Top hit shows got 3 to 5 million people. Radio stations tomorrow got far less people than today. And it's just about consumers having choices. Now, up until maybe 6 years ago, consumers really didn't have the ability to have choices when they listened to music in the car, other than whatever CDs they had with them. But then the automobiles started putting in the jack, so you could put that aux cable in there and use your iPhone, and then the apps got better, and the iPhones got better, or the smartphones, and everything got better. And now, we got Wi-Fi in the cars, and now it's just so simple and voice commanded. We can do whatever we want to do and jump in and out, and by the way, the broke musician who has a 7-year-old rusted out jalopy gonna probably have an aux cable in it, right. and so all of a sudden, it, as that technology gets old and it becomes more affordable to the middle class and then to the lower class, it's ubiquitous now, right? Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has a way to plug it into their car, which means everybody has choices, which means I'm not listening to the radio, right? Right. I don't need to listen. You don't get it. To everybody listening to this podcast, you don't get in the car and just like, oh my gosh, I really need to be enriched today. I'm going to keep changing the radio station until I find something I'm not familiar with. That doesn't happen. Right. You get in the car and look for what you want, right?
Right. I'm going to keep flipping stations until I find what might be my jam.
That's right. So
one day.
The power of radio, man, used to be that it just had the power to make the unfamiliar familiar. Because while you were waiting to hear that next, give me a late 80s, early 90s country music star that was at the top of the game, Reba. Like, while you were waiting for the brand new Reba single that you heard that you can't wait to hear because you freaking love Reba, you had to suffer through that first Tim McGraw single.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was early 90s. But yes.
That's what I'm talking about. But and who's this jerk? Like, I don't need to,
Indian what?
Get me to freaking Reba. Yeah, I want to hear.
What? Reba, why haven't I heard from you? And you're waiting by, with the blank tape, just waiting to hit record. And as soon as that Reba jam comes on, you're waiting for it, waiting for the countdown. That was the only time you knew I'm going to hear my jam because the countdown's on.
And had to listen. You had to listen. You had to listen because you were listening to the radio. And then guess what? They played that song again. They played it again. They played it again. They played it again. And eventually, there's enough spins in that market where you, the individual, heard it like 7, 8 times. And all of a sudden, you're like, Indian Choctaw. Or what was that? Indian Outlaw? Was that the
Indian
first
Outlaw, yeah.
Tim McGraw? And now he's got, what has he got? 35 number ones or something? I mean, now he's a legend.
Ridiculous.
Now he's a legend.
Kind. Yes, but he's a humble and kind one.
He is a humble and kind one. He's a good guy,
yes.
too. Like, I know people that work on his team, and he takes good care of his team, and I love it. And so does Faith. But I mean, the point is, that's what radio did. Radio doesn't do that anymore. When you can keep changing and you have all the consumer choices that you have with Pandora, Spotify, Deezer, Slacker, iHeartRadio, HD Radio, SiriusXM satellite radio, you have your own personal playlist. You have, you can do. You're going to find what you want, and you don't need. You have to break through another way. So consumers like familiarity. This is why they don't care, because they're not familiar with you.
Right. It's nothing personal.
Why don't consumers care? I don't know who the hell you are. Like we talked about the tweets you get, right? And the tweets
You're right.
Check me out. No.
Right.
Like clearly that person doesn't listen to the podcast. Already I know that. You know what I mean? Or read my articles. They just, I don't know how they came. I came into their awareness, but they're like, check it out, dude. And I'm like,
check it out. You're like, no, check out my blog and my podcast, okay?
Right. And not from an egotistical point of view, but I mean, I don't even know who you are. How are you going to do that? So to ask the right questions here, the artist isn't going to break on the radio anymore. You're not going to break on the radio. Is radio going to be beneficial to you? Yeah, in certain ways. It can certainly, give you social proof for your social media to show people that you're really doing it when you do a radio. If you're doing like the indicator activator stations or the mom pop shops, like the Music Row stations, stuff like that, it can be very good. But I mean, you're really not going to gain an audience that way, especially if you don't have money, right? A lot of you don't have that kind of money to do a radio campaign anyway. So we just sit around with our hands in our pockets and we're like, gosh darn it, if I just had this and if I just had that. Well, you've got it all. You got YouTube, you got Instagram, you got Snapchat, which is, by the way, did you read the latest Left Sits blog?
Oh, no.
On authenticity.
That's the newest thing to fake?
No, that it's what sells. I mean, it's Snapchat is, by the way, blowing away all the other social media platforms right now on its market value because they don't allow advertising on there. Right, you can't sell yourself on Snapchat, and by the way, you have to be on Snapchat to use it.
Yeah,
so it's got to be you, right? And right. So the authenticity of that is what people are really, really. It's like this club of people who are really doing that. And that guy just called before our podcast was that's one of the dudes out in LA. I'm working on that music app with. It's all about authenticity, man. And that's the hook, and so that's what's going on. But guess what? So is YouTube, right? When you give 3 chords in the truth, even if it's somebody else's song, like that's you being real. Yeah. And that's what connects with people. So, it's going to be, how are you going to be exposed? How are you going to, how's anybody going to become aware of your existence? How is your song going to become my jam?
How?
You need to, number one, reach me, and you need to hit me with that song where I got to hear it, whether it's subconsciously or not in the background, but I got to hear it 8 times. So how do you do that? Now we're asking the right questions, right? Because waiting for radio isn't the ticket, and that's not going to take care of it anymore. So when you start talking about and asking the right questions of, okay, how can I reach out to some? I mean, certainly we have reach on social media, right? We have reach on YouTube. We have, there's certain press we can get, certain blogs we can get on. There's a live shows is reach, that a lot of people can do. And once we get that reach, then how do we, connect with them? And we've got to be, that's where that whole, the value of that contact comes in, because then I can, once I have the reach and I'm smart enough to get the contact, then, we talked about Super Bowl, right? And if you want your commercial run once, it's cost, X amount of $1 million. You want to run twice, which is the definition of frequency. costs twice as much, right? Mm-hmm. And on radio, if you're going to do a radio campaign, right, and radio tour, I mean, that costs money, right? And the more radio markets you go to, the more money it costs to get that frequency, right? Mm-hmm. But guess what? How much? I sent you an email today with the notes from today's show. Guess what that cost me?
Basically zero.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. So when you start to think about, okay, how can I get reach, and then how can I get frequency? The frequency is free, so you can afford to screw up 10 times before you find something that works, right? Before you find a way to sort of to Trojan horse that music in to get people to listen. Now with Bailey, we did the teen survival tips, which was something that's been working really, really well. We had her talking about something that was relevant to her audience, that was personal to her audience, things that teenagers go through, how to deal with your mom when you're not cleaning your room, how to deal with boys who are mean to you, how to deal with mean girls, how to deal with peer pressure, how to, some of them were more heady than some of them were light and fluffy, but she's got this personality. She's the asset, right? And they love her voice and they love her music, but they loved her first.
Gotcha. So it's the music comes second, whereas in radio, and I think we talked about that before, radio, the music came first and then they got to know the artist.
Right.
These days, it's great if you can say, get to know me, and then you get to know my music.
Yeah.
So then you have a reason to care and want to listen.
Yeah.
Just like the opposite of the people that blow up your tweet, they do the auto tweet, thank you for following me here. Check out my music. You're like, I don't know you yet. So you don't care.
Right. Yeah. Think about when you were young.
Like,
go ahead.
Here's an example. I mean, so I have the Songwriting Pro Facebook group. And so we have U Day Tuesday. So that's kind of the time for everyone to, post their songs and, because people want to share that stuff, so that we kind of have like, this is the day and this is the post you get to put all that stuff on. And I'm a lot more interested in going to listen to that stuff because these are people, especially if they've been talking in the community, they've been posting other stuff that's helpful or fun,
their names,
whatever.
Yeah.
I know that. I've seen so-and-so pop up a lot.
Sure.
I wonder what their music sounds like. I start getting curious, like, oh, well, they seem pretty cool, chatting on stuff and answering questions and whatever. I'm curious what their music sounds like. Somebody just drops in and carpet bombs me with music. I'm not curious. I'm curious about how fast I can kick them out.
You're annoyed.
Because they're annoying, right?
And now think about that. Like, so what does let's break that down for a second psychologically between two individuals. What does the Songwriting Pro group bring? It brings community. Right? Of a bunch of people who want to be together. There's structure to that community, isn't there? Tuesday is the only day that we put our music up.
That's really the day. We got that to share, and then we have Feedback Friday, which is where you can post and ask for, good comments are always welcome,
right.
But Feedback Friday is when you're like, all right, give it to me. And so we have a time for that. But other than that, it's mostly, people sharing articles that are helpful or asking questions, answering questions, that kind of stuff.
So there's a really good exchange of information. The information that's being exchanged is relevant to the people in the group.
Yep.
And it is garbage people. Relevant to people in the group and valuable to people in the group and personal to them. So they choose to participate. And then through that, because they're constantly there, all of a sudden we get to know people. We start making friends. And then, like you said, we get curious and we create the relationship. You see how that happens, man? Like, think about your first day on the job when it's like the worst day, right? Or your first day at the new school, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know anybody. And it's really uncomfortable and it's really creepy. And imagine me walking up there and going, hey, man, hi, how you doing? Here's a CD. $10, check me out. And you're like, what? Right. You're freaking out because it's like not comfortable. You're not comfortable yet,
Right.
But then as you get to know everybody, and then all of a sudden you become invested in these people, right? You want to know how their kids are. You want to know how their families are, stuff like that. It's the same thing, you guys. You and you have something more to bring, and that is the talent too, right? So you become like the cool kid in the group, right? Like that's doing all these videos because you're doing, by the way, what everybody else just refuses to do, which is outworking everybody else once a week with that video, that cover video, and people can see your talent and they immediately know the song and they can touch it to you, and you do a good job of making that happen, and they begin to have a trust in you, and that sets up the future, and the next episode we're going to talk about sort of random acts of marketing where I recently had, I'll tease my next episode, which is 2 weeks from now, but I had an artist that I know who's a really good artist, and he's trying to do it the old way, and because that's what he knows, So this isn't any kind of indictment on anything other than his approach, and just tweaking your approach a little bit, and how much that can change. Like when you first learned to swing a hammer, if you choked up on it too much, it was real hard to hit that nail.
Right.
When somebody said change your approach and just slide back to the end of that hammer and let the weight do the work for you, all of a sudden it was easier to drive a nail. You could do a lot more in a lot less time, and you're getting some success. Same thing. It's just about the approach. So we're going to talk about how a lot of people on this podcast listening we come across these little blessings that pop up, and how you're not prepared for them. So anyway, that brings us to the end of another episode of The Climb, and we are well over 20,000 downloads now. By the way, thank you to everybody.
Yes, thank you guys so much for downloading and for listening. And if you aren't listening, well, listen. I don't know how you're going to hear me tell you that, but thank you, people. Thank you that you are listening. That was pretty cool. That's pretty cool to reach that benchmark. Hey,
if you like it too, by the way, make sure you share it. If it's valuable to you, it can be valuable to a friend. And feel free to leave a comment, leave a rating and review on either Stitcher or iTunes. We're available on both if you have an Android or if you have an iPhone. And there we go.
And hey, if you hate it, recommend it to your enemies.
There you go. Pass it on. Just pass it on one way or the other.
Exactly.
So, hey, before we say goodbye, once again, of course, as always, the free download of the book, giftfromjohnny.com. It's a best-selling Twitter book. It'll just teach you how to really, and by the way, the code for the Twitter is the same as the code for Instagram, guys. So it just teaches you how to use the app and get a targeted 1,000 followers every single month for like 15 minutes of your time a day, which is and it's free, right? It's free. All you're putting is time into it, and you can watch your account grow. And the other thing is, if you're feeling a little stuck, if you're feeling a little depressed, a little down, education is the best way out, especially if it's attributed directly to you. So we do offer consulting, and we do charge for that, but give us a call or hit me up at info@daredevilproduction.com. Again, production is singular, there's no S. info@daredevilproduction.com, and let me know. And you'd be amazed at what we can accomplish in 1 or 2 hours. Where I'll go through all your accounts, your website, your web store, and we'll start talking about what you need to do to really improve and tweak what you've got going on, and bring it up to the level that the Daredevil artists are operating at. So you can tap into that knowledge for just a little bit of money, and you're on your way, and you're feeling really good about yourself because it's personalized.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, John.
You got it, man. So, hey, with that, I hope you all had a great Christmas. New Year's is right around the corner. Be safe. That's amateur night, so use Uber.
There we go.
And we'll say, hey, keep on climbing, guys.
And we'll see you at the top.